The community centre on Aldwich Street was not the kind of place that appeared in lifestyle magazines. It had been built in 1987 with municipal funding that had never quite stretched far enough, and it showed in the water stain on the ceiling of the main hall that had been there so long it had become a landmark, in the folding chairs that wobbled on their third leg, in the particular smell of institutional cleaning products and old wood that Sofía Reyes had long since stopped noticing because she had been coming here every Saturday morning for 4 years. She was not paid. And that was the first thing people said when she told them, "You're not paid," with the particular disbelief of people who had organized their lives around compensation and could not locate the logic of doing something valuable for nothing. Sofía had stopped explaining. The explanation was too long and too personal, and it ended in a place she didn't always want to go. She taught movement, not dance. Technically, the center's Saturday program was listed as adaptive movement for children with physical and developmental differences, which was the official language, the grant application language. What it actually was in practice was an hour and a half every Saturday morning in the main hall with 7 children between the ages of 5 and 12. A Bluetooth speaker and whatever music Sofía had decided that week would make them want to move. She had a gift for it. She had known that since she was 19 and had started volunteering on a dare from a college roommate, and had walked into a room full of children who the previous instructor had described as difficult to engage, and had put on a cumbre record and watched a 7-year-old girl with cerebral palsy light up like something had been switched on inside her. That had been 11 years ago. The gift had not gone anywhere. She arrived at 8:40 on the second Saturday of October to find the hall already unlocked. Marcus, the center director, always opened early for her and began setting up. Chairs to the edges, mats on the floor for the younger ones. Speaker charged. Playlist ready. The children arrived between 9 and 9:15, brought by parents or carers who deposited them with the particular mix of gratitude and exhaustion that Sofía had recognized as the face of people who loved someone very much and were very tired. She counted heads. 7 regulars. And then, near the door, standing slightly apart from the group with his carer, a young man in his 20s, who looked uncertain about where to put himself, a child she had not seen before. He was about 8 years old, small for his age, with dark hair and his father's eyes, though she didn't know that yet. He was using a walker, a lightweight pediatric model in bright red, and he was looking at the hall with an expression she recognized immediately because she had seen it on every new child who came through that door for the first time. Not fear, not reluctance. Assessment. He was looking at the hall the way a person looks at a room they are deciding whether to trust. Sofía crossed to him. "Hi," she said, crouching to his level. "I'm Sofía Laters. What's your name?" He looked at her for a moment, directly, with the particular directness of a child who had learnt early that the world required him to make decisions about people quickly. "Leo," he said. "Leo." She smiled. "Have you ever danced before?" "I can't dance," he said. "Not sadly. Just factually, the way children state things that adults have told them enough times that they've accepted them as fixed." "Who told you that?" she said. He blinked. "Everyone can dance," she said. "The only rule in this room is that you move however your body wants to move. That's it. That's the whole rule." He looked at her for another moment. then at the hall, then back at her. "Okay," he said. She stood and went to start the music. She didn't know yet who he was. She didn't know that his full name was Leonardo Vos, that the Vos was the same Vos on the tower 3 blocks from the center, on the foundation that funded half the city's arts programs, on the side of the building that housed the most profitable private equity firm in the country. She didn't know that his carer had brought him here without his father's knowledge, on the advice of Leo's occupational therapist, because his father had said not yet, and his carer, a young man named Tom, who had worked for the Voss family for 2 years and genuinely loved the boy, had decided that not yet had gone on long enough. She didn't know any of that. She just knew a boy who had been told he couldn't dance and was standing in her hall with a red walker and an expression that said he was still deciding whether to believe it. She put on the music, and she watched. She always started with something slow, not because slow was easier. It wasn't, always, but because slow gave the children time to find themselves in the music before the music asked anything of them. It was a philosophy she had developed over 11 years and could not have articulated fully in words, though she had tried once in a grant application and had produced 3 paragraphs that she thought were quite good. Today she started with something her grandmother had played, an old bolero, unhurried, with a bass line that moved like breathing. The 7 regulars responded the way they always did, each in their own particular way, which was the whole point. Amara, who was 10 and had Down syndrome, went immediately to the center of the floor and began swaying with her eyes closed. Kieran, 7, autistic, stood very still for the first 30 seconds and then began moving his fingers in a pattern that matched the rhythm exactly. The twins, Priya and Dev, held hands and turned in slow circles. Leo stood near the wall with his walker and did not move. Sofía did not go to him. She had learned over 11 years that the worst thing you could do with a new child was go to them. Going to them meant pressure. Pressure meant resistance. Resistance meant the decision to trust got pushed further away. She moved around the room, giving attention to each child in turn, and she let the music do what music did when you gave it space. 4 minutes, she noticed, from the corner of her eye, that Leo's right foot was moving. Just slightly, just a shift of weight back and forth, in time with the bass. She did not look at him directly. After 7 minutes, both feet were moving, and his hands on the walker had relaxed from gripping to resting. After 12 minutes, he pushed the walker slightly forward, 1 step and then another. And his whole body began to find the rhythm in the particular, individual way that every body found rhythm when it was allowed to, which was never the way anyone expected and always exactly right. She put on the second song, something faster, a son cubano with a percussion line that made Amara laugh out loud and sent Kieran into a spin of pure joy. The energy in the room lifted the way it always did at the second song, the particular alchemy of music and children who had been given permission. Leo was moving now, not the way the other children moved. His body had its own constraints, its own particular relationship with balance and momentum, and he worked with them rather than against them in a way that Sofía watched. With the quiet attention she brought to everything in this room, he was using the walker as a partner, pushing it, pivoting around it, letting it take his weight in one direction while his upper body moved in another. It was, she thought, watching him, genuinely beautiful. At the end of the hour, when the music stopped and the children gathered for the cool-down, Leo sat on a mat near the window and looked at her with an expression she recognized as the opposite of the one he'd arrived with. "Can I come back?" he said. "Every Saturday," she said. "Same time." He nodded once, with a seriousness that made her want to smile. His carer, Tom, caught her eye over Leo's head with an expression that was equal parts relief and something more complicated. "He hasn't asked to go back somewhere," Tom said quietly, while Leo was putting his jacket on. "In about a year," Sofía looked at the boy. "He's welcome here as long as he wants to come," she said. She didn't find out until the following Tuesday that Leo's father had called the center. Marcus appeared in the doorway of the small room Sofía used for administrative work on Tuesday afternoon. She came in twice a week to file session notes and plan the following. Saturday, with the expression of a man who was about to say something he was not entirely sure how to say. "There's a call," he said. "For you. Line 2. Who is it?" Marcus set a sticky note on her desk. 3 words. "Daniel Voss, personal." She looked at the name for a moment. Then she picked up the phone. "This is Sofía Reyes." The voice on the other end was not what she expected. She had braced herself for the particular choreography of important people who made other people make their calls first. Instead, it was direct, low, controlled, with the slight tension of someone who was managing several things simultaneously, and had decided that this one required his personal attention. "Miss Reyes, my name is Daniel Voss. My son attended your session last Saturday, Leo," she said. "Yes." A brief pause, as if the use of his name, without title or prefix, had registered as something unexpected. "I wasn't aware he had been brought to the session. That was an independent decision by his carer." "I see," she said carefully. "I'm not calling to complain," he said. And she had the sense that this clarification was offered because he understood how the call might sound and wanted to redirect it before it went somewhere unproductive. "Leo hasn't stopped talking about it, which is notable. He was wonderful," she said. "He has a real instinct for movement." Another pause, longer this time. "He has spastic diplegia," Daniel said. "Cerebral palsy affecting his lower limbs. He has been in physiotherapy since he was 18 months old. He's had 3 surgical interventions. He uses a walker full-time outside the home." The list came out with the precision of a man who had recited it many times, to doctors, to specialists, to anyone whose professional opinion he needed to understand. His previous experience with movement-based therapy was, it didn't go well. "What happened?" she asked. The therapist focused on what he couldn't do, he said flatly. Leo decided he was done after 3 sessions. "That makes sense," she said. "Does it? If someone spends an hour showing you your limitations, you stop going," she said. "That's not a Leo problem. That's a methodology problem." The silence that followed had a different quality than the ones before it. "He wants to come back Saturday," Daniel said. "He's welcome to. I'd like to observe. The first session at least. A beat, if that's acceptable." She considered. Parents occasionally observed. It was part of the program's open-door policy. She had never had a parent request it quite this formally. "Saturday at 9, she said. "You're welcome to sit at the side. I'd ask that you don't intervene during the session, not because of any concern about you specifically, but because the children do better when the adults in the room are quiet." A pause. "Understood," he said. "Good," she said. "We'll see you Saturday." She hung up and sat for a moment. Marcus appeared in the doorway again. "Everything all right?" "Fine," she said. "Can you make sure we have an extra chair at the side wall Saturday?" He arrived at 8:55. Sofía was setting up when she heard the door and turned to find Daniel Voss standing in the entrance of the hall, tall, dark suit. The particular stillness of a man who had walked into many rooms and was accustomed to being the most important person in them. He was not, she could see immediately, accustomed to rooms like this one, the wobbling chairs, the water stain, the smell of old wood and cleaning products. He took it in without expression. Leo was beside him, Red Walker, dark hair, and the expression she was beginning to recognize as his default, that careful assessing look that was, she now understood, entirely his father's. "Good morning," she said to both of them. "Good morning," Daniel said. Leo said, "I told my dad about the bolero. Did you?" He said he knows it. Leo looked at his father. "You know it, right?" Something crossed Daniel's face, quick, unguarded, gone before it fully arrived. "My mother used to play it," he said, to Sofía rather than to Leo, in the tone of a man making a factual statement rather than a personal one. "Then you'll recognize today's playlist," she said. "Sit there, please." She indicated the chair at the side wall. "And remember, quiet." He looked at her for a fraction of a second, the look of a man who was not often given instructions, and then sat down. The session began. She was aware of him the entire time, in the way she was aware of anything in her room that was new, cataloguing it, accounting for it, making sure it didn't change what needed to stay the same. She watched the children, not him. She did her job. But she saw, from the corner of her eye, the moment Leo pushed the walker forward into the open floor and began to move, and she saw what it did to Daniel Voss. He was very still. Not the controlled stillness of the lobby or the phone call. Something different. Something that had let go of the control mechanism entirely and was simply present, watching his son move to a bolero his mother used to play, in a community center on Aldwich Street, with 7 other children and a woman who had told his son that everyone could dance. She put on the second song. At the midpoint of the session, she did something she occasionally did with children who were ready for it. She danced with them. Not instructing, just moving in the space available to anyone who wanted a partner. Amara took her hand immediately. Kieran moved alongside her for 30 seconds before spinning away. The twins incorporated her into their circle briefly. She moved toward Leo. He looked at her. The question in his face was not, "Can I?" It was how. She held out her hand, palm up. "Your left hand on my arm," she said. "Walker stays. We just move the top half." He put his hand on her arm, and they danced. Not for long, a minute, maybe less. His upper body finding the rhythm, her body giving him something to move against, the walker steady beneath his hands. His face changed in a way she had seen before in this room and never got tired of, the particular transformation of a person, discovering that their body could do something they had been told it couldn't. She glanced toward the wall. Daniel Voss had his elbows on his knees and his hands clasped, and he was looking at his son with an expression that had no management strategy and no efficient response. His eyes were bright. She looked away and kept dancing. The children left in the usual way, coats, carers, the particular noise of endings. Leo was last, talking to Amar about something with the seriousness of children conducting important business. Daniel stood near the door and waited. When Leo had gone ahead with Tom to get his coat, Daniel crossed the hall towards Sofía, who was stacking the mats. "Let me," he said, and picked up the stack before she could respond. She looked at him. "Where do these go?" "The cupboard at the back," she said. "He carried them." She watched him navigate the hall, the suit, the mats, the complete absence of self-consciousness about the combination, and filed it away. He came back and stood in front of her. "Thank you," he said. She had heard those two words from many parents over 4 years. She knew what they usually meant: gratitude at a distance, the acknowledgement of a service rendered. This was different. This was the thank you of a man who had just watched something he had stopped believing was possible, and was still finding his way back from it. "He did the work," she said. "I just put on the music. You told him everyone could dance. It's true." 3 specialists told him movement therapy wasn't that his goal should be. He stopped. They were very focused on outcomes. "Outcomes are important," she said, "but they're the wrong place to start." He looked at her. "Where do you start?" "With what the person loves," she said simply. "Find what they love, and the rest follows." The hall was quiet now. Outside, the October light came through the windows at a low angle and lay across the floor in long, pale rectangles. "He loves music," Daniel said. "He always has, since he was very small." A pause. I didn't think of it as a therapeutic. "It doesn't have to be therapeutic," she said. "It can just be music." He was quiet for a long moment. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yes." "Why do you do this?" He looked around the hall, the water stain, the plastic chairs, the speaker on the folding table. "You're clearly talented. You could be. I know what I could be," she said, not harshly. "This is what I want to do." "Why?" She considered him for a moment, the directness of the question, the genuine curiosity behind it, the absence of judgment. "Because of a 7-year-old girl," she said. 11 years ago, she had cerebral palsy. Everyone had told her she couldn't dance. A pause. The first time she heard music in this room, she danced for 40 minutes without stopping. She looked at the floor. "I've been coming back ever since." Daniel Vors looked at her for a long moment. "I'd like Leo to continue," he said. "Every Saturday." "He knows where we are," she said. Something moved at the corner of his mouth. "I'll be bringing him myself," he said, "from now on." She nodded once. "Miss Reyes," he said, at the door. "Sofía," she said. A pause. "Sofía letters," and the way he said it, carefully, like something he wanted to get right, told her something she filed away and didn't examine until much later. "Daniel," he said, and he left. He came every week. He sat in the chair at the side wall and he was, as instructed, quiet. He watched his son with the particular attention of a man who had been given something back that he hadn't known he'd lost and was not yet sure how to hold it. He never intervened. He never offered opinions about methodology or outcomes or therapeutic frameworks. He just watched. And after each session, when the other parents had collected their children and Tom had taken Leo to the changing room, he helped stack the mats. It became, without either of them agreeing to it, a ritual, 10 minutes at the end of each Saturday, while Leo got ready, in which Daniel Vors carried mats and folded chairs, and Sofía put away the speaker, and they talked. Not about anything important, initially, the music she had chosen, whether Leo had mentioned the session during the week, a book she'd referenced once in passing that he had apparently read and had opinions about. The conversations grew. On the 4th Saturday, he brought coffee, 2 cups, from the place around the corner, without asking how she took it. It was exactly right, which meant he had either guessed or paid attention to the coffee she made in the center's small kitchen before sessions. She thought it was probably the latter. On the 6th Saturday, Leo danced without the walker for 45 seconds. It was not planned. It was not a therapeutic milestone that anyone had set or scheduled. It happened because the music hit a particular moment, and Leo let go of the walker with one hand and then the other, and his body found its own balance for those 45 seconds, and the hall was entirely quiet except for the music. Sofía kept moving, kept the energy steady, kept her face neutral because she had learned that the worst thing you could do in a moment like this was let it become a moment, let the adult reaction turn the child's natural act into a performance. She did not look at Daniel. She didn't need to. After the session, when Leo had gone ahead and the hall was emptying, she turned to find Daniel standing in the middle of the room instead of at the side wall. He was looking at the spot where Leo had stood. 45 seconds, he said. I know, the physiotherapist said. He stopped last month. She said unsupported standing for more than 30 seconds was an optimistic 12-month goal. Bodies are surprising, Sofía said, when they're given the right conditions. He turned to look at her. And she saw it again, the thing she had seen on the first Saturday, that unguarded brightness, but this time it was different. This time it was not just about Leo. The right conditions, he said. Music, she said. Permission. Someone who isn't counting the seconds. You weren't counting. I never count, she said. I just watch. He looked at her for a long moment. Have dinner with me, he said. She has been expecting it, not the specific moment, but the direction of things. She had been watching it arrive the way you watch weather coming across open ground, visible from a long way off. Daniel, she said. I know, he said. I know the complications. I'm asking anyway. She looked at him, at the man who carried mats in a suit and brought coffee without asking, and sat quietly at the side wall every Saturday and had not once in 6 weeks tried to fix anything. Saturday week, she said, after the session. He nodded. And bring better coffee, she said. That place around the corner is terrible. Something happened on his face that she had been waiting 6 Saturdays to see. A full, unguarded, genuine smile. I know a better place, he said. She learned about Leo's mother over dinner. Not because she asked. She had learned, over years of working with families, that the things people needed to say found their way out when the conditions were right, and that asking was often the wrong tool. The restaurant was quiet and warm, and the food was good. And they had been talking easily for an hour when Daniel set down his glass and said, without preamble, Leo's mother left when he was 2. Sofía waited. It wasn't. She didn't leave because of Leo, he said carefully. I want to be accurate about that. She left because of me. Because he paused. I was very focused on building something. And she needed someone who was present, and I wasn't. You're present now, Sofía said. Leo changed that, he said. When he was diagnosed, when we understood what his life was going to look like, the challenges he was going to face, I had to make a decision about who I was going to be. A pause. It took me longer than it should have. How old was he when you decided? 4, he said. He fell in the garden. He fell because I wasn't watching. I was on a call. He said it plainly, with the tone of a man who had processed a thing thoroughly and arrived at honesty about it. I finished the call, and then I went and sat with him on the grass, and I thought, this is the only thing that is actually real. And the company, still there, he said. I'm less available to it than I used to be. It manages. She turned her glass slowly. He talks about you, she said. In the sessions. Not directly, but in the way children talk about the person who is their whole world. Daniel was very still. He told Amara last week, she said, that his dad knows all the old songs. He said it like it was the most important fact about you. The silence that followed was the kind that comes after something lands exactly where it was meant to. My mother, he said, after a moment, sang to him when he was born. For the first 3 weeks, when he was in the NICU, she sang every evening, old songs, the bolero. Others. He looked at the table. She passed away when he was 18 months. He doesn't remember her. But I play the songs. He remembers them, Sofía said quietly, not as a memory, as something in his body. Daniel looked at her. That's what music does, she said. It goes somewhere words don't reach. He held her gaze across the table, and she had the clear, quiet feeling of a conversation. There was also something else. There was two people deciding, word by word, whether to trust the thing that was building between them. You're not what I expected, he said. What did you expect? I don't know, he said. Someone who needed something from me. Everyone needs things, she said. I need the center to keep its funding. I need the speaker not to die mid-session. I need Leo to keep coming on Saturdays. She paused. I don't need anything from you specifically. I know, he said. That's what I mean. She held his gaze. I need to think, she said. I know, he said. Take the time. Children, in Sofía's experience, always knew, not in the way adults knew things, not with analysis or language or the narrative structures adults built around feelings. They knew the way animals knew weather in the body before the fact. Leo knew on the 8th Saturday. He knew because his father arrived with the better coffee from the place Sofía had described, which was 20 minutes out of Daniel's way, and because when he handed it to her, their fingers touched briefly on the cup, and neither of them moved away quickly. Leo watched this from across the hall with the expression of a child filing information. After the session, while Daniel was stacking mats, Leo appeared beside Sofía at the speaker table. Do you like my dad? He said. Sofía looked at him. 8 years old, red walker, completely direct. I think your dad is a good person, she said carefully. That's not what I asked, Leo said. She looked at him for a moment. You're very sharp, she said. My dad says that too, Leo said. He says it like it's a compliment. It is. Leo considered. He smiles more, he said, since we started coming here. Tom noticed too. Sofía said nothing. I don't mind, Leo said, with the particular gravity of a child issuing a formal position. In case you were worried about that. She looked at him, at the dark eyes, the careful face, the boy who had walked into this hall 8 weeks ago and been told he couldn't dance, and had decided to believe otherwise. Thank you, Leo, she said. He nodded once, his father's nod, exactly, and pushed his walker toward the door. The Voss Foundation annual benefit was the kind of event that required 3 weeks of advance notice and a dress Sofía did not own. She had told Daniel this directly. I don't have anything appropriate. He had said, that's not a problem. She had said, I'm not wearing something you bought me. A pause. What if Leo picked it? She had laughed, genuinely, the kind of laugh that arrived without warning, and that had been, she thought afterward, the moment she understood that she was in significant trouble. The dress Leo picked, with what she suspected was considerable paternal guidance, was dark green silk. Simple. Not expensive in a way that announced itself. Exactly right. She arrived at the benefit to find Daniel already there, which she expected, and to find Leo there also. In a small suit, red walker replaced for the evening by a sleeker model in matte black, talking to an elderly woman near the entrance with the ease of a child who had been brought to adult events since he was very young. He saw her first. His face did something uncomplicated and lovely. "You look nice," he said. "You look very serious," she said. "Dad made me wear the tie," he said. "The tie is excellent," she said. Daniel appeared beside his son. He looked at her, at the green dress, at all of it, with an expression he didn't bother to make neutral. "Leo has good taste," she said. "He does," Daniel said. The evening was long and warm and full of the particular energy of people doing good things in expensive rooms. Sofía spoke about the program 3 times. To 3 different people who had apparently been briefed by Daniel in advance and asked genuinely good questions. She found she was less uncomfortable than she had expected, which she attributed to the green dress and to the fact that Daniel stayed nearby without hovering, which was a difficult balance she noted with appreciation. At 9:30, a string quartet began playing in the corner of the main room. Leo appeared beside her. "This is the part," he said, "where people are supposed to dance, is it?" "Leia says he doesn't dance," Leo said, with the tone of someone reporting a known failing. "But you could teach him." "I could," she said. "I would dance with you," Leo said. "But my physiotherapist says formal floors are a slip risk. That's very responsible of you." "I know," he said. He looked across the room to where Daniel was speaking with the foundation chair. "He's watching you," he added informatively. "He does that." Sofía looked. Daniel was, in fact, watching her, with the attention he usually reserved for things he was trying to understand and had decided were worth the effort. "Go tell him to come over," she said. Leo's face did the uncomplicated, lovely thing again. He pushed his walker across the room with purpose. 2 minutes later, Daniel stood beside her. "Leo says you want to dance," he said. "Leo is occasionally presumptuous," she said, "but not wrong." Daniel looked at the floor, at the other couples moving slowly to the strings, with the expression of a man doing a calculation. "I genuinely don't dance," he said. "Everyone can dance," she said. "The only rule is that you move however your body wants to move." He looked at her. "That's what you told Leo," he said. "It worked on him," she said. Something happened at the corner of his mouth. He held out his hand. She took it. They were not graceful. He was stiff for the first 30 seconds, the particular stiffness of a man who was accustomed to being competent at things and was not yet competent at this. She didn't correct him. She just moved and let him find her rhythm. And after a minute, something loosened and he stopped thinking about it, and they were simply 2 people moving slowly to strings in a warm room, while across the floor a boy in a suit watched with satisfaction. "You were right," he said quietly. "About everyone can dance." She looked up at him. "Almost everyone," she said. "You're still working on it." He laughed, a real one, low and surprised, and she felt it in the hand at her back and thought, there it is. 6 months later, on a Saturday, Leo walked across the hall without the walker. Not far, 8 steps, maybe 10, from the mat where he'd been sitting, to the center of the floor where the music was. His physiotherapist told him last week that he was ahead of every timeline they had set. His occupational therapist had used the word remarkable. His surgeon had asked, at the last review, what had changed. Leo had said, "I dance now." Sofía watched him take the 10 steps and reach the center of the floor and begin to move, arms out, head up. The full, unself-conscious joy of a child who had decided 8 months ago that his body was capable of more than he'd been told and had been proved right, Saturday after Saturday. In a hall on Aldwich Street, with a water stain on the ceiling and a speaker on a folding table. She looked at the side wall. Daniel was not sitting in the chair. He was standing, because he always stood now. He'd told her once that sitting felt too far away, that he needed to be closer to whatever was happening in this room. He was watching his son with the expression she had come to know better than almost any other, the one that had no management strategy, the one that lived underneath the $11 billion and the controlled voice and the suit, the one that was simply a man watching his child be more than anyone had told him he could be. He felt her looking. He turned. She raised an eyebrow, 10 steps, and he looked back at Leo, and then back at her, and the smile that crossed. His face was the one she had been waiting for on the first Saturday, and had been getting in various forms ever since. After the session, when the children had gone and the hall was quiet, Leo sat on a mat near the window with his walker beside him and his shoes off, which was his habit now. He always stayed a few minutes after, in the quiet of the room, as if he needed the transition. Daniel stood beside Sofía at the speaker table. "I want to fund the program," he said, properly. "New space, better equipment. A paid position for you, if you want it, or additional staff if you don't." She looked at him. "I'm not asking because of us," he said. "I'm asking because what happens in this room on Saturday mornings is the most valuable thing I've seen in 20 years of funding programs. And it's running on a broken vending machine and a Bluetooth speaker." "The vending machine was fixed," she said. "Sofía letters." "I know," she said. "I know you mean it, I do." She looked at Leo, sitting in the window light with his shoes off, tilting his head to some private music. "I'll think about it," she said. "That's all I'm asking." She looked at Daniel, at the man who had sat quietly at the side wall for 8 months and carried mats and brought coffee and learned to dance, and had never once tried to fix anything that didn't need fixing. "I've thought about it," she said. He waited. "Yes," she said, "but I run the program. My methodology, my music, my rules, obviously," he said. "And you still sit at the sidewall." "Obviously," he said again, with the tone of a man who understood that some things were not negotiable and was entirely fine with that. She nodded. Across the room, Leo looked up. "Are you two done?" he said. "Because I want to put the bolero on." Daniel and Sofía looked at each other. "He's very sharp," Daniel said. "He gets it from his father," she said. Leo put the bolero on. And in the hall on Aldwich Street, with the October light coming through the windows and the water stain on the ceiling and everything exactly as it should be, the three of them, a boy who had been told he couldn't dance, a man who had learnt he could, and the woman who had known all along that everyone could, moved to music that had been playing in this family, in one form or another, since before any of them were born.